Hey y'all, what is up? Keasbey here. So today is going to be a showcase of Warrock in action. So I do want to mention a couple things up front. First and foremost, if you watch the deck profile I posted a little bit ago, you'll notice that this deck has been updated a little bit since then. First and foremost, Mystic Line got banned while I was working on the profile, so I had to quickly swap that out in the video. And then after playing with it a little bit to get more replays to show off on the channel, I did tweak it a little bit since then. So the main difference is we've got 3 copies of Dimension Shifter in the main deck, and we moved the Raigekis to the side deck. And then took out the Godarlas, did a few little tweaks here and there, but nothing super major, but I just wanted to mention that up front. The next thing I want to mention is, and I said this in the profile, but I want to be super upfront about it, this is not a deck that you should expect to be taking a lot of matches with against the meta decks of the format. You are going to see me beat a couple of the meta decks of the format, but some of those are single games out of matches that we would ultimately end up losing, but still got a fun replay out of. And some of those are really just the exception to the rule, where we drew absolutely everything we needed in the perfect order we needed it and got some of that anime luck that I tend to get sometimes. But before we get into all that, don't forget to drop this video a like, subscribe to the channel for even more, and if you want to help us out a little bit extra, check out the link in the description to grab yourself a Keasbey TCG exclusive playmat. The playmats are designed by me for the channel, and everything from those goes a long way to helping us out. So, without any further ado, let's jump right into the games. Alright, so we're going to start this off with a quick game against Hero. This is just a single round because our opponent disconnected after this game. Our opponent's going to start by having the life points to activate a Hero Lives, and then go off and do a bunch of Hero stuff. I have no idea if this is an optimal build of Hero or not. The deck kind of changes every time I blink, so let me know in the comments. Regardless of whether it's an optimal hero build or not, though, we do get to do something really cool at the end, so I wanted to show it off. It kind of shows how you can win with Warrock based entirely on creativity, and yeah, I'll just let it play out from here. They're going to keep doing some more stuff. They're going to fire off Rhoda, grab a copy of Shadow Mist, I guess, for next turn, set Forbidden Droplets, and pass. So we are going to Lightning Storm. We're actually going to clear the back row, despite the fact that everything our opponent has would have died to Lightning Storm, but because our opponent has all these monsters in attack position, we can actually OTK them from here, and because they have their life points via a Hero Lives. So, we're going to normal summon Wento, go into the battle phase, and we are going to swing into the absolute zero here. Our opponent's going to activate Sunriser to pop the Wento. We don't want Wento to die yet, so we're going to fire off Droplets. We're going to send the Orpus that's burning a hole in our hand, and the Double or Nothing that, why do we always draw the Double or Nothing in our hand? To negate the Sunriser, and more importantly, half the attack on Absolute Zero. The half attack on Sunriser is also going to be very relevant as well. So now with Wento, we're going to pay 800, boost her up by 8, so she gets a little extra damage in. Now, Ab Zero is a mandatory effect. So it's going to forcibly blow up our Wento, which means we get to trigger Wento to special summon. We're going to grab Basileos here, and at this point our opponent is going to disconnect once Spirit starts to resolve. So I'll explain what would have happened from here. We would have waited for Spirit to resolve, gotten Wento back in attack position. Now she can't attack directly, but our opponent happens to have something with very low attack sitting on the field that has been negated. We would activate Warrock Basileos' effect. Our opponent could special summon Spirit of Neos at any point, but it wouldn't matter. Basileos would be now at 2900 and able to attack directly. We would poke in, leaving our opponent with 50 life points, and then with the Wento that is gaining an additional 200 points from Basileos' effect, would attack into the Sunriser, dealing the additional 50 damage needed. So, really cool. Wanted to show off something where Basileos was the winner of the game. Let's go into the next match. Jumping into our first full match, we are playing against Crystal Beast. So I actually think this deck is really cool. I don't think it's meta viable or really like a tiered option, but I definitely think it's an interesting rogue deck that puts up some interesting forms of interactions. They do have a searchable, oh, there it is. They have a searchable Omni Negate in Crystal Miracle, and Crystal Conclave is a really cool form of non-destruction removal. They can also put up a bunch of level 4s to make rank 4 plays, such as Ptolemaeus, which goes into Constellar Diamond, which is a great card against Tearlaments because it prevents milling from the deck. Unfortunately for our opponent, we are not playing Tearlaments. So the first thing we're going to do is fire off Terraforming. They're going to fire off Conclave a bit early here, and we're going to fire off Cosmic Cyclone to get it off the field because we don't want them bouncing our Warrock Mountain back to hand. Alright, so let's get that out of the way. And now we're going to fire off Warrock Mountain. They're going to fire off Crystal Miracle to negate the activation of Warrock Mountain. Fortunately, Warrock Mountain is one activation per turn, not one use per turn, so we'll just activate the other one we have in our hand. And now we can go into the main win condition of the deck, dropping 2 level 4s in the field, overlaying them into Utopia Double, using Utopia Double to add the double or nothing to our hand, and overlay into a Utopia whose attack is doubled. So you might notice that even once we boost him up to 10k with double or nothing, we are still not going to clear our opponent's 8,000 life points because Constellar Diamond has 27. Well, Warrock Mountain is still live because we only control a warrior. Something I mentioned in the profile, some Warrock effects work with only Earth Warriors, some work with only Warrocks, some like Mountain work with any warrior in general. So we're going to fire off Mountain here, summon the Portia, attack with Utopia, use Utopia to negate its own effect. Now double or nothing is live, we'll use it on Utopia. Attacking again. If you are playing on Edo Pro, make sure you do not accidentally negate Utopia's second attack. I've done it before, it's not fun. Get in for 73 and then finish them off with Portia to win round 1. So now let's take a look at round 2. So going into round 2, our opponent is wisely going to make us go first. We're simply going to pass. We could have made a Baguska here. I don't know how effective Baguska is against Crystal Beast, so I don't do it. And we have the 2 Lightning Storms in our hand as well, so I want to keep my field empty. We could have also set one of these to soak up some damage, but I'm almost certain that Crystal Beast can't OTK, so we are going to take the risk and just let our opponent have a turn. So our opponent is going to go ahead and fire off Neos Fusion. They're going to make Rainbow Neos. We're going to get hit for 45. And that's pretty much fine. They'll set one face down and pass. So now it's a good thing we kept our field clear. We are going to fire off Lightning Storm. We're going to get rid of the back row. We're going to normal summon Portia, use Portia to go into Gactos. They're going to use Bridge of Salvation's Graveyard Effect, do some stuff. Oof, Necro Valley is really good, just not against us. We are going to overlay into Zodiac Borbo, ultimately, who can attack directly, and then make double Azaias. So now, in one match, you are seeing both win conditions of this deck. First is win with Utopia Double as fast as possible. The other one is play double Azaias control. So during the end phase, we're just going to go ahead and fire this off to get the Rainbow Neos off the field. We have to do it before we get to our opponent's main phase regardless. And now our opponent is going to draw a second evenly matched, which is dead right now. I'm assuming that they don't have another way to make Rainbow Neos, or if they do, we'll just immediately clear it with double Azaias, and they will concede from here. Alright, so we're going to be looking at another single game. This is against Runick Sprite. So our opponent's going to summon Hyperia to get a draw. They're going to fire off the Runick field spell, activate a Runick spell. We are going to chain Dimension Shifter here to make sure that they don't get to start recurring and drawing with Runick Fountain. Also, if they go into Hugin, which they did, if they want to discard to add a backup field spell in their hand, whatever they discard will be banished. So good spot for D-Shifter. They're not going to use Hugin's effect. Instead, they're going to divert to Sprite plays. So they're going to fire off Gigantic Sprite, summon Sprite Blue, and you know how this goes from here. Sprite Jet, use Jet, get starter. They will end up setting the Smasher and passing to us. So our opponent's hand is more or less entirely unknown to us. We're going to fire off set rotation here. We are going to get Warrock Mountain, and we are going to give them Necro Valley. Hopefully their hand is full of Runick stuff. Boom, boom, because now that is offline since their field spell is no longer here. We're going to fire off Mountain. Go ahead and grab Meteoragon. We are going to normal summon Portia, activate the effect of Mountain to summon Meteoragon. So now Meteoragon is going to attack into Gigantic Sprite, activate its effect, which is going to negate Gigantic Sprite, removing its attack boost so that Meteoragon can hit over it. With Portia, we are going to grab a copy of Warrock Dignity for next turn. We're going to fire off Meteoragon so he can attack again and proceed to clear the rest of our opponent's field. So our opponent's Sprite Smashers was online this entire turn. They could have banished the starter from their hand, but they opted not to so that they would potentially have plays next turn if they missed their draw off the top. So we are going to go ahead and set double or nothing, which is dead right now, Metaverse, and Warrock Dignity. So they're going to fire off Sprite Starter that they drew off the top, get Sprite Blue. We're going to fire off Warrock Dignity here. Basically, we're addressing the known threat instead of the unknown threat. I do know that every Runick card basically means Runick Monster, which basically means more Runick plays and a Runick field spell. But again, I'd rather stop the known threat instead of guessing at what my opponent might have in their hand. Granted, they end up having everything they need. So they are going to go ahead and summon the Runick Monster, Hugin, discarding the second starter to add a Sprite field spell. They are going to go into Sprite. Gigantic, wow, I'm drawing a blank on the name, sorry. And they're going to put Carrot on the field. They're going to fire off the Necro Valley, get rid of it for Runick Fountain, and then go into Sprite Elf. They're going to bring back the Carrot, and they're actually going to pass here because they don't have a means of attacking over the Meteoragon, and I don't think they want me to get another search off Forsha. Regardless, if they did attack the Forsha, we could have sent them out into the graveyard in order to have saved it from being destroyed by battle, and Carrot cannot interact with that because Warrock Mountain sending itself to graveyard to protect does not activate, it just happens. And they still do have the Smasher face down. So, going into our turn, we'll draw a late Dimension Shifter. We'll normal summon Wento. They're going to search a Runick card. They're going to search the Destroying card and banish some cards off the top of our deck. Using Fountain, they're going to shuffle those back and get a whole bunch of draws. Okay, so fortunately, nothing really helps them here from this position. So the first thing we're going to do is use Meteoragon to clear the Gigantic. They're going to attempt to destroy one of our special summon monsters. They have not read Meteoragon because he cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects. So now using Wento, we're going to boost him up to hit him for some additional damage and get another search with Force Spirit. So now we are going to activate this to attack again. They've seen this effect. They are using Smasher to banish Meteoragon off the field. However, Smasher does not target, so I am actually going to fire off the Metaverse here, just on the off chance that they decide to hit a back row for some reason instead of the Meteoragon. So with Metaverse, we need to use that to get a Warrock Mountain into our hand. So we're going to continue clearing out the field. They are going to protect Carrot and banish a couple cards off the top of our deck. So, something really cool about Divine Arsenal Double Isaias. It only requires an Xyz monster to have battled the turn for it to be special summoned. You don't have to have controlled the Xyz monster that battled, and the Xyz monster does not have to be on the field at the time of the battle. So, we can go ahead and overlay into Chakanine, overlay into Borbo, and then drop a Double Isaias on the field, and we're going to immediately use it to clear off everything on the field. So our opponent is going to go ahead, fire off Runick Slumber to special summon a Runick monster. They're going to get back the field spell. They're going to fire off Sprite Starter. They're going to get Sprite Blue. We're waiting as long as we can here, but they're going to use Sprite Blue to grab Sprite Red, and at this point we kind of have to fire off Double Isaias in order to resolve it. So they're going to summon Red, special summon Jet, fire off Fountain. Then they're going to make Elf. They're going to use Elf to get back the Red, and then they are going to pass turn to us. We are going to luckily draw Ultimate Slayer off the top. We can immediately fire that off. Our opponent cannot respond with monster effects, so Sprite Elf is gone. We're going to fire off Warrock Mountain, grab a Warrock Wento, whose effect will allow her to attack over the Sprite Red. We're also going to fire off Warrock Spirit to get Fortune Defense Mode, just on the off chance I miss something in the graveyard that might be relevant. Attack, activate Wento to destroy it, activate Forsha to get a search, and then we'll hit in for game with Double Isaias. Unfortunately, we would go on to end up losing this match, but I just wanted to show that first round because it was really cool. Alrighty, so I know we just watched Runick Sprite, but we're going to watch against Pure Runick because this is a full match. So in response to the Runick spell, we are going to fire off Dimension Shifter, making sure that the spell gets banished so that it can't be recurred later in the turn with the field spell for bonus draws. Our opponent is just going to divert, make a Baguska, set Runick Destruction, and pass over to us. Unfortunately, the Ultimate Slayer we drew off the top is not live because it sends the grave for cost and we are under Dimension Shifter. So we are going to fire off Magical Mallet, see what we can pull. And with that, we are going to pass the turn. So we're also kind of assuming it's Runick. They have Baguska up. There's no way we get OTK'd here. They're going to fire off Runick Destruction. Remember, all the Runick cards have the effect in them that they can special summon a Runick monster to the extra monster zone from the extra deck in addition to their unique effects. So they're going to use Hugin. It's not going to resolve because Baguska is still on the field in defense position. They are going to instead search the field spell with Tip, use the field spell, use Slumber just to use it in order to get some draws with Fountain and banish more cards off the top of our deck. Our opponent's going to draw 3, pass over to us. We are going to now fire off Ultimate Slayer, sending Mariological Aggregator, clearing the Baguska, and now Mariological Aggregator's in-grave effect is going to negate the Runick Fountain on the field, turning off any potential Runick cards in our opponent's hand. We're going to fire off Mountain, get Gactos, Wento, and Gactos, overlay into Chakanine, overlay into Borbo, which you know what's coming, Divine Arsenal, Double Isaias, and we're just going to get the Runick Fountain off the field now while it is still negated. Our opponent's turn, they are going to use Smithing Storm to special summon. and get the field spell back with that monster. And now Cyber Valley, sorry, I don't know any of the Runick monster names. With Cyber Valley, they are going to attempt to draw 2 cards by banishing the monsters on the field. We are going to activate Divine Arsenal Double Azaeus to prevent this from happening. And they're going to fire off Runick Fountain and pass the turn to us. So we are going to go ahead and activate Terraforming. They are going to use Smithing Storm to summon, and that is going to allow them to get a bunch of draws off of Fountain. Fortunately, those draws don't help them a tremendous amount. We're going to use Mountain to search Forsha and immediately swap into Necro Valley so that next turn they are not able to recur more spells for draws. So unfortunately, because they hit Forsha with Slumber, it can't attack this turn, but we are still going to clear their monster with Divine Arsenal Double Azaeus, and then its recursion effect will not happen because of Necro Valley. And again, because that effect happened in the battle phase, the triple attack in our hand is dead. Our opponent's going to draw for turn. They're going to fire off a Runick spell to special summon. They are going to attempt to recur and draw with Fountain, but Necro Valley will negate it. And seeing that our opponent will surrender, let's take a look at game 2. Alrighty, for game 2, our opponent has requested that we go first. We're going to fire off Mountain. We're going to normal summon Wento, special summon the Gyarados, and we're actually just going to set the Solemn Strike and pass from there. I don't know really how much Bagooska does, because I do know that they have plenty of means of negating or clearing it, so I'd rather them just blow up the Gyarados with the one that destroys special summon monsters and let me go into Meteoragon from there. So, our opponent's going to unfortunately fire a Feather Duster, then use Terraforming, get the Runick field spell, fire it off, use Runick, blow up my monster. The exact scenario we were hoping for, get the Meteoragon. They're going to negate Meteoragon's effect and then mill some cards and then get some draws. They're going to summon the Puffin. Puffin gets Puffin into Bagooska and they will set one and pass. We are going to immediately fire off Raigeki. We are going to normal summon Wento, throw everything to attack mode, make Utopia Prime, attack with Utopia Prime, attack with Meteoragon, and now in main phase 2 we are going to overlay for Design Arsenal Double Azaeus, clear the field, and go to end phase. Our opponent is going to set one and pass, and in the end phase, we'll just go ahead and fire off Divine Arsenal to clear it. We will throw the Divine Arsenal into attack position and attack him directly for game. Also, sorry, I just realized that entire replay was shown from the perspective of our opponent. My bad. Okay, so taking a quick break from Runick and from Sprite, we are going to be showing a game against Stun, and this just has me misplaying in ways that I want to explain what I did wrong, so we're showing it. We do end up winning the match, but again, like I said, I have to explain my misplays once in a while, so let's do it. So our opponent's just going to do a bunch of drawing. They're going to take the Prosperity here for next turn. They're going to normal summon Jagrin the Spiritualist, so we can't special summon, set 4 and pass. We're going to fire off Dimension Shifter here because I have no idea what we're playing against. I would rather these back row get banished just in case of anything versus them just getting destroyed by the Lightning Storm, and nothing in our hand really conflicts with D-Shifter anyway. So, Lightning Storm, they're going to fire off Dimension Guardian, which I don't really know what it does. Oh, it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. Cool. So, everything's gone. I didn't actually read the card at the time of the game. We're going to use Wento just to get him for some extra damage. We're going to set Metaverse and pass. Our opponent will draw for turn. They're going to fire a Pot of Prosperity, reveal 6. And they're going to take the Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. They're going to summon it, activate Moon Mirror Shield, and go into the battle phase. So Moon Mirror Shield basically is going to say our opponent is always going to have 100 more attack than whatever they're attacking, or 100 more attack than the defense of whatever they're attacking. So no reason to use Wento here, also because their turn player, Moon Mirror Shield, is going to activate, then Wento. So Wento will boost herself up by 8, and then Moon Mirror Shield will activate, boosting Barrier Statue of Stormwinds up to 100 over Wento. So we're going to fire off Metaverse here. We're going to add Warrock Mountain to our hand and pass. So we're going to fire off Warrock Mountain. We're going to grab a Warrock Forcer. We're going to summon Forcer. We're going to activate Forbidden Droplets here so that we can special summon Warrock Meteoragon. We're going to use Meteoragon to attack into the Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. So we kind of had to do it this way so that we could resolve Force's effect to search, because if Force were the only monster on the field and we did that, it would get destroyed by battle and we wouldn't get to search. So unfortunately, we had to use an early droplet so that we could special summon, losing our Meteoragon, but we are going to get to search with Forsha. So with Forsha, we're going to grab another copy of Mountain, and we're basically buying time until we can make some sort of rank 4 to clear this. So we're going to have to draw either Raigeki or Droplets. We are going to continuously use Mountain in order to revive or to keep Forsha alive. We are temporarily going to forget that Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds has text on it and grab Runick Spirit, which is going to be dead in our hand now. So we are going to go ahead and fire off Runick Mountain. We're going to grab the Gyarados, normal summon the Gyarados, and we'll go ahead and pass there. Again, we're just keeping board presence at this point. So we are going to use Mountain to protect again. With Forsha, we're going to grab another copy of Mountain. Alrighty, we are going to continue drawing cards that don't do anything in this board state. We're going to use Mountain. We're going to normal summon Wento. Okay, so I had a slight misunderstanding of how Moon Mirror Shield worked, so I want to point it out for everyone here, just in case you are ever in this situation. So my thought was, because I'm turn player, Wento will activate first, and then Moon Mirror will activate, meaning that Moon Mirror Shield will set Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds to 100 over Gyarados, being 2000, and then Wento on Chain Link 1 will boost Gyarados up to 28, clearing the Barrier Statue of the Stormwind. I have not read Moon Mirror Shield in a long time. It turns out it is a mandatory effect. Wento is an optional ignition effect, so Moon Mirror Shield will always be Chain Link 1 in this situation, meaning there's functionally no way to attack over a monster equipped with Moon Mirror Shield. My bad. Thought it would work out. It did not. We are going to use Runick Mountain to protect, though. And with Forsha, we're going to grab a Search for Dignity, just in case. And we're also going to set Runick Spirit, too, while we're at it. And they're going to go to battle phase, and this time they will successfully kill the Forsha. We will get to Search. We're going to grab another level 4, so we have plays. Okay, we're going to use Magical Mallet, get rid of everything, and we're going to get the Droplet. We're going to send the Terraforming, negate the effect, and then go into our double Azaleas play. So we're going to poke over, use Runick Spirit while this is still negated, because we're going to lose it regardless anyway. And now we're going to make a double Azaleas. So we're not going to immediately use double Azaleas here. They still have to get to battle phase and attack over Divine Arsenal double Azaleas. And I want to have Dignity live just in case they go into like a Jowgen or something and attempt to wipe all our special summon monsters off the field. I can negate it with Dignity and then still have 2 Divine Arsenal double Azaleas activations for later. So they're going to draw another Barrier Statue, normal summon it, and at this point we are going to commit to the double Azaleas, clearing the field. They're going to pay for Moon Mirror Shield, put it back on top of the deck, and pass turn to us. We're going to draw Reinforcement of the Army. Perfect. We're going to fire it off. We're going to grab Forsha, throw it down, and throw everything in attack mode and attack. Our opponent at this point will go ahead and surrender. Let's go to game 2. So going into game 2, our opponent has opted to go first, and they are going to immediately fire our Prosperity. They will be grabbing a copy of Macrocosmos, summoning Jowgen, setting 3, and passing. We're going to go ahead, fire off Lightning Storm, and they will promptly surrender from there. Anyway, just wanted to show the game 2 to complete out that game. Alright, so next up is a single round in a match against Tearlaments Shizu. This is actually round 1. We would proceed to lose round 2 and 3 pretty harshly, so not a whole lot to talk about there. It was just Tearlaments did what Tearlaments does, and we could not keep up. So as it stands, Tearlaments is doing what Tearlaments does right now. You all know it, you've all seen it a million times, and I'll talk about it in a Floowandereeze replay instead of this one. I do want to point out that they're on Mass Change 2, which is a really, really cool tech for this deck, and that we saw them add Crime to their hand. So they're going to end on Elf, Baguska, a Tearlaments, so that Crime and Sulic are both live, unfortunately. So the cool thing is that Elf right now is entirely off. Well, not entirely offline. It is online, but anything they summon back is going to get negated by their own Baguska. So we don't really have to worry about that. We are going to fire off Necker Valley here to eat the Crime, assuming that they would have to prevent Necker Valley from resolving. They're going to resolve this guy in the graveyard. Doesn't really matter here. So we are going to get the Elf off the field now before we clear out anything further. And again, this is, we just want it gone. We're going to use our no response clause on Ultimate Slayer to get it off the field. Interestingly enough, they could have actually fired off Sulic here as Chainlink 2, and then Chainlink 3 used Elf if they really wanted to, but again, not really any point in doing that because Baguska is still alive, and whatever they brought back would get negated. So now we're going to fire off Slayer. Again, Slayer is not once per turn. Really, really, really cool. And we are going to send Garura so we can get an extra draw. So now our opponent... Oh, before that, actually, we're going to fire off Lightning Storm just to get rid of that back row. So Selex's Engrave effect is going to resolve. They're going to grab a Happiness. We're going to use triple tactical talents, and we're going to borrow that Baguska. We are going to normal summon Forsha, attack him with Baguska, attack him with Forsha. Using Forsha, we are going to go ahead and grab a copy of Dignity for next turn. So if you've watched this replay video up to this point, I think you know what's coming. We battled with the Xyz monster, may not have belonged to us, but Baguska getting the robot. So we're going to set the Warrock Dignity as well. It is live because we have Forsha on the field, just as a negate if we need to use it. Unfortunately, outside of the battle phase, Warrock Dignity is limited to only negating monster effects that activate on the field. So we really are kind of going to be leaning pretty heavy on this double Azaeus to get us through, and our opponent fading this draw step. And fortunately, our opponent fades the draw step. They draw Keldo, they set it face down, and pass back to us. So we are going to fire off Warrock Mountain. We are going to use it to search for a Basilius. We're actually going to tribute summon for Warrock Skylar, sending Divine Arsenal double Azaeus to the graveyard. We do not want to send anything Tearlaments Ishizu plays to the graveyard via card effect. We want to just destroy it by battle so it doesn't trigger. Also, we now have turned Warrock Mountain on. Unfortunately, Divine Arsenal double Azaeus is a machine, but now we control all warriors, so we can special summon the Basilius we have in our hand. Also, now that we are in the battle phase, Havness's effect is live to be negated by Warrock Dignity, since Dignity gets a lot better in the battle phase, allowing us to negate a monster effect activated anywhere. So we are going to attack him with Skylar, and at this point our opponent is going to surrender, and we will proceed to lose games 2 and 3, unfortunately. Okay, I know, we're back on Sprite Tearlaments, but this is a cool match, and it shows off a really cool interaction with Forbidden Droplets that I mentioned in the deck profile. Also, we do win this full match, potentially. There was a connection issue during game 2, so it's a little bit of speculation as to what would have happened, but I'll explain that once we get there. Our opponent's just doing standard Sprite. Runick plays, they're going to Capshell, it's going to let them draw a card. They've got Sprite Elf, they're going to use Sprite Elf, bring back Capshell, and they're going to summon again, the Gym Buster, so ending on a pretty formidable field. Okay, so something very important to remember, cards stay on field until the chain they are part of resolves. So we're going to fire off Lightning Storm first, targeting all our opponent's spells and traps. They are going to attempt to get some use out of Runick's Destruction by destroying Lightning Storm. This will also allow them to banish a couple of cards off the deck. Might as well use it instead of just losing it. We are going to go Chainlink 3 set rotation to get some use out of it, and also, you know, clear the Runick Fountain off the field. Not that that matters, because Lightning Storm is going to resolve a Chainlink 1. Then they are going to fire off Sprite Elf here. We are going to fire Forbidden Droplets. Since these still stay on the field, they are valid costs to be paid for Forbidden Droplets. We're actually going to go ahead and let the Sprite Elf resolve. It really doesn't matter. We are going to instead negate Djinn Buster and Sprite Red. So now, funny enough, the Necro Valley that we gave our opponent is actually going to get destroyed by Lightning Storm. And because this didn't successfully destroy the Lightning Storm, they don't get to banish anything off the top of our deck. Sprite Blue is going to activate, giving them a search, but it does not matter. We're going to, very rare with this deck, we're going to use triple tack to look at our opponent's hand and shuffle something back. Generally, we're either stealing a monster or drawing 2 cards. But in this case, we already had everything we needed to go into our main win condition, normal summon Forsha, use the effect to summon Gactos. Our opponent is going to detach Capshell, giving them a draw. Fortunately, what they draw does not do anything to stop Utopia double. So we'll just go ahead, do the standard play. Our opponent has 2 separate targets with less than 2k attack. We'll double or nothing, make sure we don't negate Utopia's second attack, and we will take the game. So game 2, unfortunately, as you can see, we had a connection issue. I can't see anything my opponent had in hand. So it's unclear how the game would have gone, but I'm going to give you my speculative take on what would have happened. So our opponent's going to fire off Runick Fountain. They're going to activate Runick Slumber to special summon. We are going to chain Dimension Shifter here. They are going to fire off Sprite Starter to get a Sprite Red onto the field. They're not going to use Hugin. They don't want to discard. So we saw our opponent just now add Sprite Smasher. It happened really quickly, but that is what they added there. So they're on Sprite Smasher and 1 unknown card. They're going to overlay to Gigantic Sprite, use that. They're going to special summon this guy whose name I always forget. It's going to allow them to draw a card. So we know for a fact one of these is Sprite Smasher. That Sprite Smasher is offline because our opponent has neither a hand nor a graveyard. The other 2 cards are entirely unknown. So here is where the disconnect happens and the speculation starts. If Harpy's Feather Duster resolves, we win the game from this position. Basically, what would happen is we would fire off Harpy's Feather Duster. All of these would get cleared. We would then go ahead and fire off Warrock Mountain. With Warrock Mountain, we would go ahead and search Warrock Meteoragon. We would normal summon Warrock Forsha, go to the battle phase, use Warrock Mountain to special summon Warrock Meteoragon. With Warrock Meteoragon, we would attack into Sprite Red first. Now, what happens next depends on if our opponent has red Warrock Meteoragon. The best thing for them to do at this point would just be let Sprite Red die. We would immediately activate Warrock Meteoragon's effect to negate Sprite Red. If they attempt to negate it by sending this, that's fine. It's still going to destroy Sprite Red. If they attempt to negate and destroy by sending Gigantic Sprite, even better, because now they're losing a bigger resource. And they will find out that Meteoragon cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effect. So regardless of how this goes, Sprite Red is going to die. So let's assume they did this the optimal way and didn't tribute anything, so they have this guy and Gigantic Sprite left on the field. Now that Sprite Red is off the field, we'll activate Meteoragon's effect to attack a second time. We'll use it attacking to Gigantic Sprite on attack decoration, negate Gigantic Sprite's effect. Also keep in mind too that everything is being banished. We're still under Dimension Shifter. We would from there clear the Gigantic Sprite, deal a little bit of damage, and then with Warrock Forsha, poke in over Iperia, get a search, probably for another copy of Warrock Mountain, go into main phase 2, set Dignity, and set Solemn Judgment for next turn. At this point, our opponent has absolutely no field, is just drawing off the top. They would draw whatever it is. If they attempt to activate it, we just fire off Solemn Judgment to negate it. They have no graveyard, and we would just win on the next turn by using the mountain we would have searched with Forsha, dealing a bunch of damage, and then if we absolutely have to, we would just go ahead and overlay into Cowboy for the last little bit of damage. Okay, so that's assuming that Harpy's Feather Duster clears everything on field, no problem. If they do have another copy of Sprite Starter and they go into a Sprite Carrot, that's fine. The only difference is we normal summon Forsha first, then we activate Warrock Mountain, and if they attempt to use Carrot to negate Warrock Mountain, we can use Dignity to negate Carrot from there, and then everything plays out the exact same. We still search Meteoragon, we use Mountain to summon Meteoragon, clear the red first. If they did use Carrot, one of these would have already been gone, depending on if they wanted to negate or negate and destroy. And yeah, from there, we set Solemn Judgment, whatever our opponent takes off the top, boom, done. It gets a little bit complicated if Feather Duster doesn't resolve. So let's say now, let's go all the way back. We fire off Harpy's Feather Duster. They negate it with Solemn Judgment. Our opponent is now down to 3,400 life points. And let's say they fire off Sprite Starter to go into a Carrot. Again, I have no idea if they have Starter. I'm just kind of making wild assumptions at this point. It could potentially go either way. We would still normal summon Forsha, activate Warrock Mountain. Again, the Smasher is entirely offline. And we would just kind of go from there. And if it is Starter that's the unknown and they use the other card to negate Harpy's Feather Duster, we do still win. But again, if they do have like a Solemn Judgment for the Feather Duster, the one unknown is going to decide whether or not we would have won this game or not. I do think we had this. I have a feeling the Duster would have resolved and we would have won. But again, it is impossible to say because the replay ends right here as we go to activate Duster. And just to clarify, this was not our opponent disconnecting. This was an actual connection issue and it happened on my end. So we will never know, but I gave my speculation on how I think it would go. Alrighty, so we're jumping right into round 2 versus Floowandereeze. We did lose pretty hard round 1, and we've elected to go second. This is actually the match where the thumbnail screenshot came from, so it thought it would be a fun chance to draw Warrock and do a little critiquing of Floowandereeze gameplay. So they're just doing standard Floowandereeze stuff here. They did flip, I don't know if you saw, 3 Rabinas off the Duality, unfortunately for them. They are going to grab a second barrier statue here, and I don't think that's necessarily the correct play, given that they already opened one. So at the moment, we do know barrier statue and Eaglin in hand, and nothing else. They're going to activate Eaglin, search for M-Pen, use M-Pen to go ahead and search for Dreaming Town, returning the Rabina to their hand. They're going to summon the barrier statue, set the Dreaming Town face down, and pass it over to us. So we're going to go ahead and fire off Mallet. We're going to shuffle back the Metaverse and the Double or Nothing that we keep drawing all the time back into the deck, and draw Raigeki. Very nice. We're going to fire it off here. We're going to fire off Warrock Mountain. They're immediately going to activate Dreaming Town. So they're going to resolve Rabina and resolve Eaglin. We are going to hold the Forbidden Droplet because we know that we have to normal summon, and they're still going to get a normal summon off of map. So we're going to let this play out. They're going to grab the Stree there. They're going to use Eaglin. Eaglin, they're going to search for M-Pen. And then they're going to go into Stree, summon the M-Pen. We now know Rabina and Stree in hand and Unexplored Winds, and they're going to go ahead and normal summon Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. So at this point, now we are going to go ahead and fire Forbidden Droplets because we're kind of fairly certain they're not going to be able to really do anything off Magnificent Map. We've seen 2 M-Pens, and they would really have to have Toucan, but Toucan doesn't have a target, so there's actually absolutely no threat to them normal summoning anything off of Magnificent Map. So we're just going to fire off Droplets. We'll send the Warrock Mountain that we don't need and the Godarla that we're not going to need to negate M-Pen and to negate Stormwinds. And from there, we are going to go Wento into Gactos. They are going to activate Map. It's going to summon Stree. Stree has already used its 1 per turn effect, and we're going to go ahead and go into Utopia Double from here. And with that, we are going to take the game. So I think our opponent probably could have maybe taken this if they had ordered their turn a little bit differently, but luckily for us, they didn't, and we get the win here. Let's take a look at round 3. So going into round 3, our opponent has opted to go first again. They're playing Jack in the hand. I'm not a huge fan of it. We're going to go ahead and take the Rabina. They're going to take the Stree. This is a very big one that part of why we win is they misplayed a little bit, and part of why we win is because we paid a lot of attention to what they added to their hand, and we know the Floowandereeze deck very, very, very well. So they are going to go ahead and normal summon the Stree, use it to banish the Jack in the hand, and then normal summon the Eaglin. They're going to use the Eaglin to search out an M-Pen. They are going to tribute summon the M-Pen. They're going to Chainlink 1 M-Pen, Chainlink 2 Stree, Chainlink 2 Eaglin. I would have personally just taken the Eaglin back and left the Stree banish for next turn to act as a chain block for the Eaglin, but that's just me. With M-Pen, they are going to go ahead and grab Magnificent Map. They're not going to activate Map. Instead, they are just going to set Solemn Judgment. I'm not entirely sure why they didn't use Map here, but moving on. So we are going to go ahead and fire off Rhoda. We're going to use it to grab a Gactos. We are going to normal summon Wento. That is going to eat a Solemn Judgment, unfortunately. We're going to go ahead and set Summon Limit, set Forbidden Droplet, and set Metaverse to pass the game. At this point, we know 3 cards in their hand. 2 of them are unknown. There are now 3 unknowns in hand and 3 known cards. Eaglin, Stree, and Map being the known, the new Map, and the 2 Cosmics are the unknowns. Our opponent has half their life points already with Solemn Judgment and will continue to pay life points with the Cosmics. They're going to first target the Metaverse. That's fine. We're going to activate it in order to add a mountain to our hand. They're going to fire off a second Cosmic. Unfortunately, this time they are going to hit the Summon Limit and miss the Forbidden Droplet. However, this will end up working out in our favor. So now, 1 unknown card in hand, Map, Eaglin, and Stree. They're going to banish Rabina and use Eaglin. So we are going to fire off Droplet to negate the Eaglin because we don't want them getting access to M-Pen and getting access to Dreaming Town here. We're going to get rid of the Double or Nothing. Our opponent's life points are so low that we're not going to need Utopia Double. Plus, you know, Double or Nothing in hand doesn't really do anything. They're going to go ahead, activate Stree, banish the Double or Nothing. They're going to normal summon Rabina, use Rabina to grab Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. So they're going to normal summon Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds. At this point, the 1 card in hand is unknown, but we can make a couple of assumptions. The biggest and most relevant assumption is that it is not a copy of M-Pen, because odds are they would have summoned M-Pen to get a search here and then continued their plays. So they're going to attack in for a whole bunch of damage and pass turn to us. So our opponent should not have summoned this Stree, and in all honesty, probably should not have searched Barrier Statue with Rabina here, because they've now cut themselves off of access of really grabbing anything else out of the deck to play on our turn. Their field is full, so even if this were a summonable monster, Magnificent Map is offline. This would have to be M-Pen to respond to our normal summon with Magnificent Map, and clearly, like I said, we can make the assumption that it's not based on how they played. I really would have, with the Rabina, grabbed a second copy of Eaglin instead of the Stormwinds and not have summoned Stree, so I would have an open spot to go into Eaglin off of a normal summon, go into Ryza, spin something back. But anyway, let's look at how we play this. So, funny enough, we do draw a board wipe. We're not going to need it. We're instead just going to go ahead, fire off Warrock Mountain, use it to grab Warrock Wento, and since Wento is normal summon, she is unaffected by M-Pen's Floodgate effect, and we will just go in, attack over the lowest attack, pay the 800, boost her up, and get in for a game. Alrighty, so that has been a collection of Warrock replays. I hope you guys enjoyed. Like I mentioned up top, but I'm going to say it again here, we really did cherry pick some really cool replays that showed off the deck at its best, but unfortunately this isn't consistently how it performs. This is a jank, fun, blind second Warrock deck. So, you know, if you do want to try this out, go for it. It is a ton of fun, but keep your expectations reasonable, let's just say. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to drop it a like, subscribe to the channel for even more, and if you want to help us out that little bit extra, as always, check out the link in the description to grab yourself a Keasbey TCG exclusive playmat, and I will catch y'all later.